I have a question to ask. Do you believe you are born with one destination in life? Do you believe in destiny? Or are our choices more important than we treat them? Do you think our lives could be extremely different, or would life have just forced us on a predetermined path? Do we have the ability to change destiny itself? Existential questions out of the way, this was just my way of getting you all ready for this video's subject matter. Slay the Princess. Slay the Princess was made by Black Tabby Games, a Canadian indie studio which consisted of two members who worked on the game, husband and wife, Tony and Abby Howard. Tony did the writing and his wife Abby did the art. Slay the Princess is a game about choice, or at least the illusion of choice. The story follows a hero and his narrator, as he's there to slay the princess, hence the name. However, things quickly escalate to woven guides, creations meant for one purpose, the repetitive nature of the choices in your life can begin to feel, and everything else in between. Let us dive into the existential crisis of a game known as Slay the Princess. So on this channel, what we like to do is, since I kind of talk about a lot of spoiler written things and I just kind of go and deep dive and basically get hyper fixated on things I really shouldn't get hyper fixated on, I want to first go through the game in its entirety, one full swoop. And then we're going to go back, we're going to start talking about the conclusion, what the game could mean, and then we're going to begin to branch off into separate, I guess, subjects of the game. The characters, the pacing, the art, the story, the coding, how it was made, what it could mean on a deeper level, and what the message I get out of it at the very end. So if you guys are even at all interested in anything like that, well, stay tuned, because we are going to get knee deep and slay the princess. And trust me when I say, it is a ride. So grab your popcorn, grab your drinks, and let's deep dive together. So one of the bigger things about Slay the Princess is the multitude of choice. If I were to sit here and tell you about every single choice known to man in this game, we would be here all day. So for the very first, I guess, rundown of the story, I'm going to make sure to tell you all the nitty-gritty details when it comes up later down the road, but I also don't want to sit here and linger on information you're not even privy to yet. So for this first, I guess, talk through with the game, we're going to go down one route, and then we're going to start talking about the 18 other routes. Yes, I said 18. So get strapped, it's a long video. Chapter 1, The Hero and the Princess. We are introduced to two main characters right off the bat, the hero and the narrator. The narrator tells us, the viewers, that we are in the woods making our way to the cabin where a princess lies in wait, and we must slay her. If we do not, well, the world will surely end. For most people playing the game, the first time seeing the dialogue wheel is completely overwhelming, and I believe that's the point. Tony and Abby wanted you to feel the amount of stress, the magnitude of choices that life likes to throw your way each and every single day. For me, I knew this game had a cute art style, but usually the cutest games have the darkest stories, so I went into the game with my guard up. If the game was called Slay the Princess, my first playthrough, well, I'll be doing the complete opposite. I'll save the princess. How about that? At the time, unknowingly sending me down the damsel route, and hey, maybe even the good route. And I'll explain them more in full later, but first let us just go through the first ending I obtained, and then we can go from there. The hero chooses to combat the narrator, asking why the princess is so evil and how does he know such things? And if she were so powerful to end the world, well, how the hell does she get in the basement of a cabin in the woods? The narrator dodges all these questions, of course, trying to keep him on track, and can't really understand why all of a sudden he's starting to act so reluctant about the entire idea. But my mind's already been made up. We're going to see just how evil she is with our own eyes. We proceed to the cabin, when the narrator tells us there's an empty room filled with a table and a knife resting neatly on it. This knife is the weapon of choice to kill the princess. Choosing to ignore the blade, the hero heads down into the cabin, which leads to a dimly lit basement. The princess' voice can be heard carrying through the chambers like a faint echo.
Hello? Is someone there?
The princess's voice can be heard carrying through the chambers like a faint echo. The hero begins to note her voice sounds so hypnotizing, like he'll only need to hear it once to be able to remember it for the rest of his life. The narrator scorns the hero and tells him to stay focused and stop being so damn horny. That is all a part of the manipulation. So you heed his words and you quietly approach with caution. The hero falls deeper in love at first sight of her pale and beautiful face. He wonders how someone so timid looking could be a threat to anyone. The narrator continues to warn the hero, telling him it may still be possible to kill the princess even without a weapon. He of course ignores him and goes to speak with the princess. She smiles softly at the hero and jokes playfully, asking if he had the key on him by chance. The hero of course does not have the key and notices how thick the chain is. There is absolutely no way he'll be able to break it, so he thinks just maybe that there might be a key around somewhere in this place. The narrator tries to tell him to just drop it, but loses his patience as the hero makes his way up the stairs. The narrator shows his power and locks the door before the hero could get a chance to leave, telling him he has a job to do and no one will be leaving this room until the job is done. Defeated, the hero would make his way back up and to meet the princess once again. She would ask if they locked him in here as well, and she would be so much more helpful if she was out of these chains, and without a second thought,
she barely hesitates before raising her arm to her mouth, her teeth tearing through her limb with the determination of a trapped wolf.
No wincing from the pain, no emotions, no nothing. She definitely is not normal. While she was tearing away at her arm, a knife would be thrown down into the basement, making a loud thud. The hero would go to use the knife which was supposed to slay her, and now instead is being used to cut her free. So the hero grabs her already mangled arm and begins to saw at the wrist to get her free. Unnaturally, and without even a single sound from the princess, she'd remove her hand from her arm, ripping the tendons off from its source and throwing the hand onto the ground. The princess would look at the hero with a smile on her face and usher him to come along and that they need to get out of here. However, the narrator cannot, no, he will not let this stand. The narrator displays that he has the power to take matters into his own hands and begins to use the hero as a puppet for his bidding, grabbing the knife and lunging towards the princess. Thankfully, she's able to dodge, and the hero takes the time to warn her, resisting against the narrator's wishes just long enough for the princess to take the knife away and stab the shit out of us?
I'm sorry.
28 stab wounds.
For what it's worth, she does apologize while doing so, so maybe there's something more happening here that we just do not yet understand. Chapter 2. The Damsel. The hero snaps back into the forest. The narrator says his lines about killing the princess or else the world will end. However, this time, the hero fully remembers his past life, but the narrator does not seem to think so. Also, we have a new friend by the name of the Voice of the Smitten.
Ah, so all of the cards are on the table. Then you should know that we and the princess are in love, and the four of us will be foiling any and all assassination attempts you've got in the works.
He's head over heels for the princess, and just like the narrator, he doesn't seem to be of a physical manifestation and can only be heard by the hero. The hero and the smitten both recall what just had happened last time they lived and tell the narrator they know of his schemes and that they won't listen to a thing he says. Or else that's what the smitten says. The hero is a bit more reserved, not fully believing the narrator's words, but understanding that there is indeed something wrong with the princess. Heading to the cabin and expecting much of the same, well, it couldn't be more different. The wooden walls are now gone and are replaced with a stone structure. The hero is surprised as now he doesn't know what to believe. He knows what he experienced, but even still, maybe it was just a dream or something. Another very odd item within the room is a mirror. This mirror will be extremely important in the later half of the game, but as of right now, just know that the hero and the smitten are able to see it, but the narrator cannot. Once it disappears, the narrator and the hero argue about its legitimacy. The hero makes his way down into the basement, not taking the knife again. Even the basement looks more castle-like than before. Still, it carries a saddened atmosphere because, nice or not, no one would want to be chained down there forever. The hero would lock eyes with the princess once again, chained up to the wall, and smiling a soft but sad smile. Even weirder, she would also make it known that this is not the first time meeting the hero, as she would say that she is happy to see us again. To the narrator, that would be impossible. But for the hero, that would make sense, as this was not his first time meeting her either. These two can remember past lives, or their memories can transcend worlds. The hero, still wanting to save the princess, goes to ask her how to free her. Obviously, we know she's cool with getting her arm cut off, but instead, we're shown something very interesting. It's almost as if she's able to change the fabric of reality by will alone. The voice of the smitten, the optionist, he is believed she's petite enough to just slip her hands right through the chain, and everyone's surprised, it fucking worked. Then later, when trying to figure out what to do next, the hero and the princess make their way up to leave, but of course the narrator tries to stop them, closing the door and locking it shut. But with a simple combined push from the hero and the princess, the lock simply clicks and the door opens right up. The narrator is in complete disbelief and is forced to narrate and do nothing as these two can finally make it outside to have their happily ever after. Except, not exactly. The narrator's voice disappears while the background fades from existence. The princess is snatched up by a ton of hands and we are brought to a mirror, the same mirror we saw earlier in the game. This mirror brings the hero great terror as its very existence seems to resonate with the hero, but after a mysterious voice calms him down, he's willing to take a look into the mirror. You approach the mirror. Silence as you reach forward. They're gone once again. The mirror always makes them leave, but you need to see what's inside. Gazing into the mirror, the hero's first thought is he's nothing. But that's impossible, so he refocuses his gaze and sees a dark figure within the reflection. Hero asks, what is he?
I think you know what I am.
And when doing so, the mirror would begin to crack and shatter into many different pieces. It turns out that this is the closest thing we'll get to a face reveal for our dear narrator. We speak to him, asking all forms of questions, but with each question, a shattered glass would break, limiting the narrator's and the hero's time within this space. The hero gets to ask many things during this time, so I'll go through them very quickly. The hero asks questions like, what are you?
I'm an echo, likely one of many. Somebody made you after all, and I'm what's left of him. Not that I'm the only one who can make that claim. I'm sure you've met many others like me.
Who am I?
You're the long quiet, the god I made to rid the world of death.
What's the princess?
She is the shifting mound, the ebb and flow, the capacity to change. She is transformation, or most of it. Her nature is why I had to die, for she becomes that which others perceive her to be. But an echo can't perceive things, not in the way that people can. So I tucked a part of myself into the folds of this construct to guide you. This isn't the end just yet. You can still destroy her and save everyone. You were made to do this single task, and you will still have a chance to fulfill your purpose once I'm gone.
We've met many times before. Have you stayed the same each and every time?
I haven't, and that's by both necessity and design. This construct you're in exists in many places at once. Anytime you failed, anytime you thought yourself dead, it would restart and shunt both your consciousness and hers into another world. But you'll be awake soon, and then it won't be able to work like that anymore.
He tells us at this point he's long gone, and whatever we do is completely up to us, but he tried his best. But now he must rest and let nature take its course. However, the hero stands firm on his decision. He's not going to kill the princess. Now with the memories returning, the hero finally remembers in full what he is. A god. And it's time for him to wake up, and when he does, he's able to see the shifting mound in her full glory. She shares even more information about the narrator. The reason we are the only person to kill the princess is because we were once one and the same. The narrator created the hero to have the ability of choice, and the princess the ability to change. Unfortunately, the hero is still holding himself back mentally, so the princess decides to enlighten him with a different perspective on all the strife and conflict felt thus far. The princess, when stabbing him, purposely missed the heart because she could not bear to see the one she loves and adore bleed out from her hands. In another alternate world, it is shown that the princess even tried to mend the separated flesh of the two forcefully. The hero had the option of choosing death or forfeiting his body. He chose agency, but agency requires action, and action is something he lacks by design, causing the endless loop of conflict and pain to transpire. In another world, it seems the hero tries to kill the princess but simply ends in both of their deaths. He was willing to sacrifice everything if it meant to save, well, everything. But this single action only branched off into new branches, and those branches branched off anew. So much so that to a certain point the hero becomes nothing. The only way a world can continue to grow is if both the hero and the princess exist within them. Everything the hero tries to tell her is either dismissed or thought of as wrong because the princess has lived so many short lives that her divine ego is through the roof and believes her perspective to be absolute truth. Before their fight could continue, the hero would have one more way to get through with her. He would go to the very heart of the princess, back way before the beginning. What I find strange is now the narrator has been replaced with the voice of the hero. I believe this is due to something similar to the mirror that the echo was in. The long quiet, which is the hero, had many different versions of himself, so that way when he dies or failed to kill the princess, he'd be able to retry, now obtaining a new voice in his head to work and to persuade him into getting the task done. But now after learning of his godhood, only one name is used for the multiple emotions the hero may have. He heads down into the basement, reminiscing about times we haven't experienced before, and the princess is sitting there as always, she always does, also remembering a time that we haven't played. It's very apparent we are far from the first loop we've gone through. As the long quiet and the shifting mound are together, they easily remove the chains, walk out of the door, and hands clasped together, you and the princess leave the basement behind for the last time. It's quiet as you ascend, a comfortable silence filling a space that used to be flooded with violence and words and noisy thoughts. But there is an energy in the silence, an electricity, the anticipation of the unknown. At the top of the stairs, the princess stalls, eyes fixed on the cabin door. You feel her hand tremble in yours. She's unsure of herself for the first time in her long and short existence. She has no part to play anymore. She knows this, yet she is still. And then she crosses the door to the room outside, pulling you excitedly with her.
This is it. I have no idea what it's going to be like out there. Not that I'm scared or anything. It's exciting, really. Anything could happen. And if it's bad, then it won't be bad. Not with you. I love you too. But I'm trying not to be sappy about it. Don't make me get all emotional.
So, Slay the Princess's routes are not normally very long. Honestly, for each route, they're about an hour long. But the sheer amount of dialogue wheels, the sheer amount of just routes and character things that you can say, do, and explore, it makes this game very long. But the one thing that I just showed you guys was the very best ending, in my opinion, that you can get. You know, based on your own opinion, but for me, I believe that this entire game is speaking about a bunch of different things, but I'm going to get into it. But the one thing that I do think it is speaking on is the process of change, and sometimes change can be death. Just like how the Earth at the beginning of its lifetime was a molten rock. Nothing was living there, nothing at all. And then over centuries and generations, it became a rock. Water started flooding in and created islands, yeah? And then it spawned in all of these aquatic animals. These aquatic animals grew legs. And then after some more time, dinosaurs ran across the earth. Meteors hit. They all died. But then guess what? The things that could live, the aquatic animals and small mammals that went under the ground, it was now their time to shine. Over even more generations, everything began to grow legs again. They came out. We had the Ice Age. Humans started coming about from monkeys, bro. And then it's the whole process of life. It dies, brings new life. It dies, it brings new life. And so I believe that is basically what the long quiet is. We are going to talk about this more later in more detail, but basically the narrator in one of the endings shares why he wanted to get rid of death in the first place, because that is what the long quiet is. The long quiet is the tool to destroy the shifting mound, someone capable of death, or perceive a life without death is what I'm getting at. But basically he's doing this because his world is ending due to some molten flaming sun rock happening. It's about to scorch the earth, right? And that's why he basically wanted to do this. But I believe this ending here showcases a new life. Yes, I do think if those two walked out of the cabin together, they would kill an entire earth of people. But I also do believe that in order to grow, you must first destroy it. My mom always told me when organizing, things will get messy before it starts to get cleaner. Just like in life, things will get bad before they start getting good. You know, when you get injured, it will hurt a lot more, but it will start to get better. And it's the same here. When they walk out of that door, I have given them the choice of being together so that way they can allow people to find meaning in their life. Because without death, what is life? I was actually laying with my girlfriend the other day, and I had bought her flowers, and she just kept looking at it. She said, "I love these flowers. I wish I could have them forever." And I was like, that is exactly why it is so beautiful, because you I can't even do it. Basically, I was just saying that what made the flowers so beautiful is that they weren't going to be around forever. So you took even better care of them. You appreciated it more. Now, if you lived a life without any pain, regret, sadness, or death, what would life really be then at that point? And I believe that is what that whole thing was about. And that is the ending that I strive to get, was the damsel ending, where you go and then you get the love vessel, and then you guys walk out of that cabin together, all lovey-dovey, and blow up a world. Anywho, I have some things, so I'm gonna read it down here because I have a Yap Session bullet list. That's how serious it's gotten. Okay, so we have the long quiet's purpose and why it's doomed from the start. Agency equals action, but the long quiet is meant to watch and react. I didn't expect this light novel to get so existential, so cosmic-y, you know? I didn't expect any of this, but one of the bigger things that I've noticed is that the narrator, the Echo, the original creator of this entire thing, he sucks. He's a terrible designer. He sucks. Bro, his whole thing was to rid the world of death with the shifting mound. And then he was like, oh shit, what if I know about that she can bring about life and death and just be a terrible person, you know, a monster? And then so he's like, fuck, I'm gonna have to split them in two. He splits them in two, creating a long quiet who is able to, well, quiet death for a long time. I think that's why it's called a long quiet. I don't know. When slicing the two, they were still one of the same, right? He just sliced one and gave it other attributes. So what I mean by that is the shifting mound at one point was able to make choices and perceive themselves how others perceive them, and then they become and do whatever they do. But him slicing in half made the two of them incomplete. So now the shifting mound doesn't know what its purpose is. It just knows that uncontrollably sometimes it'll transform. And then we have the other side. We have the long quiet, and he is unable to change. And so a lot of the times he needs to have separate entities of himself, fragments, kind of become the different parts of him. So that's why if you are scared of the princess, you'll have the broken or the hunted or the voices in your head, right? And then if you're in love with them, you have the smitten. And if you are like a cold-blooded killer, you'll have the code or the stubborn, you know? He's physically unable to change, right? But he's meant to combat something ever changing. It is just like, it's like a endless pool of tug of war. I just don't understand why the Echo would ever do it like that. And I think I'm gonna get into this much later in the video, at the end of the video really. He's just a bad designer, and I think it's because when he created them, he was in quite a rush. But like I said, I'm gonna get more into it. The shifting mound and its purpose. So explaining the shifting mound and its purpose, right? I don't want to beat a dead horse. Basically, the shifting mound is to perceive, or is to perceive change and then bring about change of that nature. And so that's why, for example, when you have the good ending, big reason why you have the good ending is when you have the voice of smitten. Because in this world, belief is everything. If you truly believe that the princess is dead, the princess will stay dead. If you think she might still breathing, and you check her pulse to check if you're doubtful that she's dead, she'll wake right up and then she'll die, right? But with the smitten on your side, he wholeheartedly loves this girl and thinks, well, if she's petite enough, she'll go right through the chains. Well, if the door is locked, surely if you push it, it'll unlock. This is all the power of the shifting mound. And one thing to look back on is like every single time you have a certain view before you walk in that cabin, that is the view of the princess you'll be able to have. So if you listen to the narrator and you go in there expecting to square up, she's going to be hostile. She's going to square up because that's what you're expecting. If you expect her to be a damsel in distress, then she'll be just that, a princess. If you expect her to be nightmarish, she'll be just that, a nightmare of your dreams. If you expect her to be fucking batshit crazy, then well, she'll become that. This entire game really is about mental illness and one's true self. I think when I wrote this was 2 days ago, so But I think when I was reading and watching all these things, I found it so interesting that the hero had almost like an identity issue. We still don't know what the fucking hero is. We don't know if the hero is the main emotion, because at the end of the day, the long quiet is where they all are. It's a whole thing, but that is the whole contraption that the shifting mound is trapped within. It is the long quiet. And so the long quiet has a magnitude of fragments, which includes the hero. So he's not the hero, he's the long quiet. But I guess I was trying to understand the mental illness portion, or understanding one's true self, because at a certain point, when you die enough times, you'll keep looping and you'll have at least 6 to 7 voices within your head. And there was even a point where you go into the final battle against the shifting mound, and you quiet your head and everything goes away. And it's almost as if you ascend to your godhood in that very moment. I don't know, I just thought it was a very interesting thing. Now, what does the cabin mean? In a metaphorical sense, does it mean the limits where we placed onto ourselves to play a certain role? The entire game takes place in a fucking cabin. Now, it doesn't seem so because it gets so surreal at a certain point, but every time you start in chapter 1s, it's the hero and the princess, and you are in a path in the woods, and you're going to a cabin where there's a princess in the basement. And I don't know what the cabin means, but the cabin she so desperately wants to get out of. She wants to break out of that limitation. And so I was thinking, like, maybe the cabin is a metaphor for a box that life kind of puts you on. Now let's talk about the ending. What did the ending mean? Because we had a lady friend with a bunch of hands and herself as the dress and her hair as hands. It was kind of weird. So I believe the ending was, like I said, I think I said it earlier, it was just meant to be a natural course of events. I think that the Echo was trying his hardest to defy death. He didn't want to die. It kind of reminded me of this movie called I Am Legend with Will Smith. It was a book first, and it was turned into a movie. So within the movie, spoilers beware, the whole premise is that life moves on. You know, new life comes in, they become the dominant creatures, the others fizzle out, they die. And maybe in another 400, 500 years, the humans will reach back up. But I Am Legend is called I Am Legend because Will Smith, the main character, is the last remaining human, so he thinks. And he goes around and he pretty much becomes an expert at killing these vampire zombie things. They call dark seekers, I believe, in the movie. But basically he kills those things, and by the very end you see that these things aren't as monstrous as they are. They're capable of love, they're capable of intelligence, they're capable of family, and they're capable of anger when you kill their loved ones. And so this whole time Will Smith was trying to find a cure. He was trying to cure these people from being them. And basically at the very end he realizes that he is the legend. He's the boogeyman in their dreams. What they used to be, the humans, now he has become to them. And I believe that this is what was going on in this situation where, hold on, what was I even talking about? So when they leave out of that cabin, it was basically just restarting the nature of events. Yes, you doomed the whole world to probably die and end, but there will always be new life later down the future. And who knows, maybe in 300, 400 years, they'll be back. So that's basically what that ending was, in my opinion. So those times, though, do not have to stay unknown, and they are actually events that we can witness in our playthrough, giving us more background on the narrator, the world itself, the motivations, and those involved, and what this could mean. So without further ado, I don't want to just leave it off on a Yap session. Let's get into the different routes and the different vessels, and we'll explain in detail what each of them mean and what they add to the story, and so we can piece up what's happening within the world, within the characters, and within the power system, or I guess the logical system within this world. let's get into it. As I said before, there are plenty of routes you can take, and all of the choices within the game do carry very important consequences throughout your loops. This game being literally a Goliath of content, we'd be here all day if I sat here and told you every single route and detailed every single dialogue. So moving forward, I already laid out the basics, right? Chapter 1 will always remain the same, but now I will hyper focus on all the different routes and when things truly begin to diverge. From what I can understand, there are 18 routes you can choose to take, each of them feeding us a bit more information on the last. So let's get the easy ones out of the way. First and foremost, the leaving ending, or the feeler's ending. So this ending can be achieved during chapter 2 of any route. If you just choose to say fuck it and leave, you are the godhood. So doing so, the narrator literally can't stop you. But also remember, we are in a construct meant to keep the long quiet and shifting mount at bay. Here we get to see just how subconsciously destructive the princess truly is. As the hero would walk down the path, hands similar to the ones that we see the final princess form have begin telling us how hungry they are for vessels. That being the hero, obviously. She's been feeding off the hero's different life experiences, since she's unable to do so by herself. This is her only way to understand her godhood. But if we continue to starve her from their experiences, we can understand how dependent she is on the hero's existence, as she would first be angry at the player, then annoyed, then sad, then desperate. But if you keep trying to leave this construct for 6 times in a row, I believe, she'd ask for mercy, then fear of being trapped in that space forever, and then finally, she'd show the protagonist love, passion, and understanding. As this action of looping would go on for all eternity, and as the shifting mound's nature, she will eventually become one with the hero. The hero, however, has his consciousness fade away in the process. The Razor Route. Instead of the 2 other routes shown so far, within this route, the hero heeds the advice from the narrator and takes the blade, getting into a bloody, and I'm saying bloody battle, resulting in the 2's death. Fun fact here, since she is the shifting mound, if the hero believes her to be unarmed, she will surely be unarmed. But if you hesitate or check to her pulse or whatever you do, you will bring her to have the very thing you're so scared of. That's what makes her so damn dangerous. The hero would hesitate, thinking she has a knife. She surely has something on her. And so when he finally goes to attack, sure enough, she does, causing her to slice his neck right open, but you do finish the job. Now with the perception of her clear in your head, the cabin is fucked. Jagged shapes, warped woods, shattered windows, and the princess is now perceived as this very untrustworthy person.
I hope you've come to rescue me. I've been stuck down here forever.
The princess is now perceived as this very untrustworthy person. Her tone sounds mocking as she asks for the hero to break her out of these chains while wearing a sly smile. Turns out she has a blade within her arm, which she promptly uses to kill us effortlessly. Things to note, every time we die, she resets as well, making it more and more difficult for you to deal with her the more times you loop. Things only become more jagged and sharp. All the while the long quiet is just adding voices to its head. This time, however, the princess doesn't play dumb anymore and erupts 2 blades from her arm this time, and then 3, and then 4, then 5, 6, 7.
And then everything goes dark, and you die.
Now after failing many, and I mean many times, there are a heap of voices in the hero's head, but I guess after dying enough, it has awakened his godhood. He clears his head from any emotion, including the narrator, and fights the princess one last time. But ultimately, the both of them would end up killing one another. the captive route. The hero is skeptical before entering the cabin, making the princess controlled and cold. Much of the same happens. You talk, you cut her free, and then she cuts you up out of defense. Though she doesn't really seem to care all this much, or rather looks more disgusted with your very existence. The hero now thinks of her as a dangerous prisoner. The next time you would meet, she'd have even more chains around her body. This time, however, we give the princess our knife and she does the dirty work for us. Hooray! The world's saved, right? Or so we thought. The hero believed her to be alive and was denial that it was all over. So, she made it that it was not all over, making it outside and bringing about the end of the world. The voice of the skeptic said it best.
But we're still here. Maybe it wasn't the end of the world after all. Maybe it was just the end of his.
The nightmare route. Within this loop, the hero is terrified of the princess, shaking as he grabs the knife, trembling as he faces her cold demeanor. The hero would run and decide to lock her in the basement.
It won't be long before I slip these chains. And once I'm out of here, there will be hell to pay for leaving me behind.
Too bad she breaks out and gives our main character a literal heart attack off of pure aura alone.
It can't be. This can't actually be how everything ends.
I'm sorry, but it is. Everything goes dark, and you die.
On the next loop, everything looks a bit more nightmarish. The basement now looking more like a void, with her haunting voice guiding the hero down to there. The basement is now an empty abyss, and the princess stalks our every move, becoming our worst nightmare as she just a single touch can make us forget to do our basic bodily functions like breathing and our heart to continue pumping. Fortunately, the princess does not want to kill us because she wants to leave, and she can't do so if we die. We get this terrifying perspective of the princess, and it is a true nightmare. It describes a situation where the princess will be alone for 80 years, die, be born anew, make friends, fall in love, gather peers, then boom, they're gone, and feeling the loneliness is even stronger now. I believe this was her trying to persuade the hero to let her out in the world, but instead she actually broke him and he died.
Oops, I think I broke you. I'll see you soon. You'll know what to do.
And she breaks him again and again and again and again and again and again and again. However, after many loops, she does succeed in breaking him, finally getting out of the cabin, only to get grabbed up by the long quiet once again. I wanted to stop the video and say, if you guys enjoy what you're seeing so far, to drop a like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more. I love it when you guys are notified, because then it lets me know how much you are actually enjoying what my content is giving. And if you really enjoy what I'm doing here, you could subscribe to my membership. $1 a month, $3 a month. What I offer over there is I offer no ads running on the videos. I watch my own videos sometimes on my channels that do not have, or my YouTube accounts that do not have the YouTube Premium, and I can tell that these ads are relentless. So if you want to watch my VODs ad-free, you can go over there. I have Night in the Woods. I'm working on Until Dawn, and I'm also working on Fear and Hunger, and so you can go and watch it there. And I also do behind the scenes editing sessions if you want to know how I do things over here. So say that all to say, thank you guys for watching, and we'll go back to the video. Peace. The Stranger Route. The Stranger Route, the hero diminishes responsibility, never meeting the princess, and when he does, the two are like strangers. The two are one of the same, so one cannot exist correctly without the other. Things begin to break. The Beast Route, or the Den Route. She fucking eats you in order to get out of the cabin without looping. it does not work. The apotheosis? How do you say that word? You decide to worship her like a god. So then she does become a god. The Spectre Route, or the Wraith Route. You kill the princess and you regret it. Then you decide ending yourself, just so that way you can loop once more. She turns into a ghost, possesses your body to get out, but too bad the long quiet gets to her first. Realizing what you have done, you try looping again. She does not like that and takes our heart. Next loop, she becomes a wraith and, well, takes our body again, makes it outside and, well, gets snatched up once again. I think you guys understand. Within each loop, the princess is completely different. The hero is completely different as well. The echo is completely different. And that's mainly because they are all working like dominoes, not the pizza. The narrator is that of an echo, an outdated memory, terrified of death and what he's created, and so from the very start implants all forms of negative emotions about the princess. The hero goes in with whatever perspective he has now obtained from the narrator, which could be fear, hatred, danger, weariness, sad, empathy, and the princess reflects that, only becoming stronger and stronger with each loop. If you were scared of the princess for being a bit scary, she'd turn into your worst nightmare. If she had the strength of a beast, she'd literally turn into one in the later loops. Those blades keep killing you? Well, instead of one or maybe just two of them, she'd make her entire body out of the blades you fear. And every time, as the shifting mound is designed to do, she will find a way out, only to be grabbed by the long quiet and forced into a reset, so to speak. The long quiet being the very essence of the construct that she is trapped in. The black crosshatchy lands is the hero himself. He's just made unaware because, just like the echo, there's a multitude of fragments and reserves for him to continue the loop. Alright, for our final section, let us deep dive on the echo himself and the world he aimed to protect. We learned through many, and I mean many, alternate paths of events, but at one point, the narrator, well, should I call him the Echo, used to be a mortal man. The shifting mound would go on to describe him as a man who was deluded by his fear of death, and he would say so himself when you would go to speak with him in the mirror dimension. The very first time you would see the real him and get a face reveal, he tells us that we were never supposed to see him. That the way things were supposed to go was that he would die, become an echo, and use his remaining existence to persuade the hero to rid the world of death, saving it all. But then there's a blaring question. From what exactly? The end of times, of course. We get a glimpse of this through one of the endings. After slaying the princess, she wonders what a world without death would even look like and wishes all of us the best. Then she disappears for good this time. When the hero walks out of the cabin, he becomes enlightened about his godhood, that everything is him. And when he shatters the wall, we see a raging ball of flames.
In life I was painfully mortal, a witness to the end of days. I held the fear of death in my heart and saw oblivion threaten the very memory of everything I knew and everyone I loved. I needed to do something.
It's implied that when the Echo was still a man, a mortal person, the end of times was nearing. Everyone had death on their minds, as they knew not long was left on this earth. Then he would create a god, a shifting mound he would call it. Something capable of change, something that may change their fate of absolute destruction and death, but instead he would create something that would change from people's very perception of it. Everyone was thinking about death, everyone was fearing the end of life as they knew it, including him. Realizing his mistakes, he'd hastily create another entity, the Long Quiet he'd call this one. Being cut from the same cloth, the Long Quiet would take some attributes from the shifting mound, that being the ability of choice. The hero would choose what to do, how to perceive her, and she'd simply react, tug and pull, ebb and flow. However, since done hastily, something we can kind of infer due to her entire ability. What made the princess so dangerous was people's perception of her. However, at the start of the game, she's a clear canvas. No one knows she can bring death upon this world except the narrator, and that's more than likely because once he found out, he immediately went to create the Long Quiet and off himself as a way to become an echo and make it impossible for himself to perceive anything, just becoming a faded memory, an echo lost in time. Which would explain this ever-changing, ever-rotating domino effect of the princess always changing, always causing the end of the world, which would call this ever-ending routine of death, destruction, going back, resetting, death, destruction, going back, resetting. It's because, ironically, the narrator is the cause of all of this. Because we see in the good ending that if he had instead just fed the hero positive views, oh, she's a goddess who would be able to save everyone, and she would be able to remove death itself. If he did that, he would be able to have the hero go in there, have her be completely timid, beautiful, amazing, and tranquil, and he would just be able to walk out and save the world from scorching earth. But instead, since the narrator in a way is impossible, or it is impossible for him to change, every single echo of him, every single fragment, every single faded memory of this person was what was on his mind in his very death. So he would wake up and he would tell the hero about how she would bring about death. And that's because right on his deathbed, that's all he could think about. Now he's like, oh my gosh, is she a beast? Is she a monster? A psychopath? A ghost? A monster? What is she? And then you go in there and she does the very thing that the narrator is so damn scared about, freaking the end of the earth. It is so interesting where you just see that it all started with the narrator. The narrator tells the hero about the princess. The princess now gets changed off of the perception of the hero, and the hero always forgets what he did. Well, kind of forgets. It's actually kind of strange, and please correct me in the comments, but I never wrap my head around why is it that the hero seems to be always the standard person you start with, and then it deviates to other things. And like, where does this all lie? Is this in like some hyperbolic chamber, you know? And then and months and years and generations have passed, but to us it just seems like it's been a couple of seconds, a couple of months maybe. I just never truly understood that whole portion, that whole part, and why it seems that this had been such a drastic thing of like tug and pull, ebb and flow. Why is it that the princess is a clear canvas? Are we saying that the start of the game, the narrator had just offed himself? Because then that doesn't make sense, because the narrator himself says so, that he's just a faded memory, an echo. It truly feels like it's further into the future, because another thing is they were talking about him like he was an individual, a man, a homo sapien, and then he somehow, when we get this face reveal, he's a crow. And so it's like, did enough time pass to where creatures just began to morph, kind of like an Adventure Time situation where things just became mutated, natural selection took in place? I don't know, but all I do know is the narrator, it starts with him. And I think it's very, very interesting that he created two beings that could complement each other so perfectly, yet he could not create it within himself to be these two beings that he created. He created something that could have agency, action, choice. And then he had something else. He created something else that was ever changing. It could never just stay stagnant. It could never just be one thing. And I just think that is a very, very, very poetic end to the narrator. As much as I love Slay the Princess, I had to really think about it for about a week or so, where I just kind of sat and wondered, what is this game really about? Because when I went into it, I thought it was a visual novel with some dark tendencies, and then I thought it was a visual novel subtly trying to explain mental illness and self-identity and stuff. And then I played it, and then it was more of a choice of, you should always be willing to change. Don't ever become stagnant, you know? But then I was cooking some pancakes. Like, what the fuck do I be talking about, bro? Why the fuck did I have to say anything about me making pancakes, bro? Anyway, I was thinking while I was cooking food, and I was thinking about how this game is ironically a love story. And not a love story in the way that you believe it to be. Not, you know, obviously the hero and the princess are very cute together, and I love that. But think about the princess and the hero. Who are they? What are they? We learn from the narrator that they're cut from the same cloth. They were once one being, but as a desperate attempt for the narrator to somehow destroy death, he separated death from being able to perceive itself as death. And then now he chose another god that could perceive it as anything it wants, and it'll be that thing. And he would be the only person to ever kill such a being. But at the end of the day, the shifting mound and the long quiet are two of the same creatures. It's about loving yourself. It's about accepting the nasty, gritty, nasty, disgusting, dark side of you and accepting it. Moving forward, moving out of that cabin, that limitation that has been set upon you for God knows how long. It is a beautiful, beautiful story about acceptance of oneself. The ending that I originally showed at the very beginning, I always thought it was a good ending because it meant, oh, the cycle continues, the cycle of life and death. It doesn't just become a stagnant mess. But I think it's deeper than that. I think when he grabbed her hand and they both pushed that cabin door open, I think that was him accepting the shifting mound for who she is. He went to the heart of the shifting mound, to his egotistical goddess side that thinks it knows everything. He went deep, 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 deep inside. And they walked out of that cabin together. I believe that cabin is the limitation. I think that cabin is the box you try to hide the worst parts of yourself in. I think that cabin is a filter. And for people, a lot of times they'll always feel like they can never express themselves. They would always try to lock that part away from them. If you have some weirdly nerdy things you're into, you don't want anybody finding out about that. If you're afraid of being judged for a certain way that you act in public, you try to shut that way out of it until you're in private. Then you're alone with your thoughts. Then that side can come out of you. But I think this story was a bit more personable than that. I think it was a lot. I think there was something about mental disorder there, mental illness there. I think there was something about self-identity. The hero himself having so many fragmented sides of him every time he tried to stare in the mirror. Hell, the mirror, if it's not a reflection of yourself, that can't spell it out even more. Finally, after so many fragmentations of himself, being broken, being a skeptic, being sad, cold, a murderer, a hunted, it'll all go dim, dormant. Every time he would stare in the mirror, it'll all go quiet because it's alone with him and his thoughts. And I believe at the very, very end, when he finally went into that cabin, talked to the princess, and led her out for anew, it was a sign that he finally loved a part of himself that he was so terrified, that he looked at as a problem, as a chore to figure out, as something he wanted to stab and get out of his life. So I will say this to say, at the very end of these videos, I love getting personal with you guys. It took a long time for me to love myself. It really did. It was a time where I would look back at my life and wonder what the fuck was happening. It started off in 6th grade. My brothers made an off comment talking about my hair, talking about the way I dress, how I'm really only into video games, that I haven't had a girlfriend. I don't talk about girls enough.
blah, this, that, all that. I didn't care about them. I said, I don't give a fuck. I want to play my Game Boy. Kept playing my Game Boy. 7th grade comes, and the same thing happens. A girl likes me. She tells me she likes me, and I just say, I like you as friends. Bro, I think I rejected her on Kick, bro. Kick on my Kindle Fire. What the fuck? Whoa, that's a flashback. And I just kept doing this. 8th grade, another girl would like me. 10th grade, another girl would like me. 11th grade, I would like this girl, and she would move away. It just kept happening where I started fearing that I wouldn't be able to love myself if I didn't have a person. It was a missing puzzle out of my life. It was the one thing that I didn't understand how everyone was doing. Everyone was so calm, and I hated myself. I hated that I couldn't get a girlfriend. I hated that I was scared to talk to them. I hated that I felt like I was always alone. I hated that I couldn't relate with people at a certain point. And so I started changing myself. I started trying to act more cool. I started working out. I started trying to be the class clown. I started skipping school, walking around the school, going to other people's classes and being cool about it. Talking, just trying to be me. And it only got worse when COVID hit. I had to isolate. I said, now I'm really not going to get myself a girlfriend. What the fuck? Then I go to college. It's much of the same. I'm 19 at this point. Never had a girlfriend. Never kissed a girl. Still a virgin. And I'm just... It's a hate that's fueling in me. I don't understand what's happening. I don't get it. And so I kept going down this path of just being overly rambunctious, being overly loud, having friends upon friends upon friends. And when I look back at it, there would be times where I'm in the cafeteria and it'll start with one person, then it'll start with 3, and then 7, and then 11, and then 15, and everybody would be in a huge club. And I looked around and I just started thinking, like, I don't fuck with any of these people. I don't. I was just trying to watch Minecraft 100-day survival and eat a goddamn burger, but now I have 17 people around me. And then it all clicked. I got tired. I became a junior and I lost all my friends. I had a bunch of friends that were seniors and I was a junior, so they had all left. And it just clicked. I no longer yearned for companionship. I no longer yearned for friendships to fill me. I didn't stop hiding myself from people. I let that part out, and I found some very close people. Shout out to you, Marvin. I found you. Shout out to you, Zach. I found you. And those people love me for me. I can be weird. I can talk about my fantasies and shit. I can talk about my dreams. I can nerd out at SCP creatures. Damn it. I can do all these things. And I won't feel weird about it. And you want to know what is so funny? Is as soon as I did that, as soon as I started loving myself, accepting the part that I thought was grotesque and stupid and ugly and no one would want it, I met my girlfriend. At a coffee shop. And I didn't hide myself. I didn't try to come off cool. I think the fucking first day I talked about a goddamn Cry of Fear video that I watched. But here we are 2 years later, and I can say for the last 21 years of my life, I feel happy. I'm 22, by the way, just to put that in perspective. But I genuinely feel happy. I don't mind going to the store in my pajamas. I don't mind going up to people and talking to them if they don't know me, because at the end of the day, if they do reject me, if I do feel stupid, I won't. Because I know that I love myself. And I know that it was for the best that I got rejected, that it didn't work out. Because if I have to shield myself, filter myself, put a mask on myself, then why are we friends? Love yourself. Love yourself. Slay the Princess is a game about love. It's a love story. It's a game about accepting who you are as a person and accepting the parts that you find monstrous, unpredictable, and grotesque. Accept that parts of you. Show those sides of you. You will be surprised. You'll find people who would love you for you. And those relationships will last a lifetime. Do not fragmentate yourself. Do not. So, thank you. And I'll see you on the next video. Bye.